everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, the weekly podcast that helps you grow your business, improve your life, and enjoy yourself along the way. I'm your host, Alan Langer, and every week we try to bring you the best thought leaders, the best business leaders, and the best minds out there to help you succeed in business and in life. So sit back, relax, grab your pad, your pen, and your favorite beverage, and enjoy the next episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is your host, Alan Langer, and guess what we have tonight? We have episode number 40, the big round 40, and I couldn't think of a better guest to have for our milestone event tonight, and it's going to be Amy Quick. I'm going to introduce Amy in about 30 seconds, but like I start every podcast, to give you information, the website is marketingandsalespodcast.com, and the Ask Alan segment, send me a question. Send me any question you want. I get about 10 to 20 a week. If I pick your question and we read it live on the air for my guest, you get a signed autographed copy of my book mailed to you for free. So what do you got to lose, right? Give it a shot. We've got a great question coming up from Wesley, who's in Miami Beach. So without any further delay, I would love to introduce my good LinkedIn friend, Amy Quick from Texas. Amy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Alan. Thanks for having me on and, allowing me to imbibe with my cocktail of choice.
Yes. So you are actually doing the first thing we do on this podcast is tell us what you're drinking, and we're going to do a virtual cheers.
I am drinking Merlot, and it is a cheap Merlot at that. But you know what? I'm not complaining.
It's Merlot. I actually made myself a Manhattan because this is literally, I'm not kidding, probably the 9th Zoom that I've done today. So I'm a little delirious. So if I laugh a little too hard tonight, it's totally fine because I'm a little punch drunk. But hey, so cheers to you. Thank you for joining the podcast
Cheers.
tonight, and I can't wait to get into some conversation with you. So Amy,
Manhattans are definitely my drink of choice. That old fashioned. So
all right. Well, when I visit Anna, Texas, I will take you out for a Manhattan. How's that deal?
Absolutely. And I'll take you to a Cowboys game.
Okay, as long as they're playing the Giants. We were Amy and I were bantering back and forth pre-recording here. The Cowboys fan, Giant fan, so a lot of fun. Anyway, so Amy, just so our listeners know, you are the territory account manager at Fortinet, and you're also the co-founder of a really cool weekly show on LinkedIn called 5 on Friday. Amy has become, I found Amy on LinkedIn months and months ago. She has been a guest speaker in my networking group. She's awesome. I think she was just named Rookie of the Year for Fortinet or something like that. You told me, right? Small Business Rookie of the Year. So congratulations on that. So tell us a little bit about, I got so many questions for you, but tell us about 5 on Friday and what you're doing for your company. But really 5 on Friday sounds like it's your wheelhouse there. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, first off, 5 on Friday was started just kind of on a whim. There's a lot of sales coaching and training out there, and all of that is really great. But then sometimes we saw like this gap that existed in people that might not have the time or budget or inclination even to get full-time sales coaching and consulting. But they still needed the help, so we felt kind of like bad for the little guys,
Mm-hmm.
And we'd all been in the trenches selling for a long time. And we thought, gosh, we could give away an hour of our time every week just to give out some advice from one sales rep to another, essentially, not really claiming to be experts in any way, but just saying, hey, this has worked for me. Maybe you could try this. So we kicked it off in February. It's been almost a year. And every Friday we just bring someone on that wants some advice on, whether it's a sales pitch or their presentation, demo decks, really any of that. We've even done, worked with people on like defining their target ICP, how to go to market for their startup.
Mm-hmm.
We spent an hour just kind of like going through all these potential scenarios and things that they could try. And so it's been a really cool experience for me. And ultimately, it's helped me become stronger as a sales rep, and which has only helped Fortinet because, if you're good at selling, whatever company you're working for is gonna benefit from that in a mighty way. So yeah, it's been a fun experience.
So what is this? How is it? What's the setup? Is there 5 of you or is there 4 of you? And then you bring someone on to help them? Like, how does that work?
Who knows, man? It changes every week. We joke about like, why the hell did we call it 5 on Friday to begin with? Like, the whole concept was that we were thinking there would be 5 of us on Friday. There would be four experts or 4, coaches, and then 1 presenter that would come on and present. And so there would be a total of 5. And that quickly just debilitated into, like sometimes there were 20, sometimes we had 6 people. And people were like, wait a second, is it 5 o'clock on Friday or is it 5? Like, what is this? And we were like, oh my God, we spent so much time like explaining the name that it just became a running joke that we were like, we don't know why we're going with it. And like, so, but yeah, the concept is usually that we have 4 guest coaches and then we have 1 presenter. So there's usually at least 5 of us.
Gotcha. That's cool. But it's funny how it's just like the name stuck, even though it doesn't it's not consistent.
Make any sense. Friday. Well, that's what we got.
What's really,
with that.
They say timing is everything, and you guys started this before the pandemic. Now this I'm going to say this recording will come out, I think end of February or somewhere around there. So I'm hoping that the pandemic has been, the people listening to this at that point. I'm hoping that the pandemic is easing a little bit. So let's throw those wishes out there. But you started 5 on Friday prior to the pandemic. And when people weren't really looking for stuff to be online, they didn't realize they're going to be online 40 hours a week, a month later. So that's really neat that you did that. And you kind of just fell into, it's not neat that the pandemic started, but you were there for people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was kind of like one of those weird twists of fate because it worked really well for the market as well, especially for, I think the first couple of episodes were just startups. I mean, literally, that's kind of been our niche. We've done a lot of presenting, or presenters have come on from different various startups. And, the one thing they don't have when they're a startup that hasn't gone through any series, rounds of funding or anything like that, they have no budget. They're a shoestring. There's like 1 sales rep, 1 marketing manager, 1 CEO, and it's usually the same guy. Right. So if they can come on and get like basically a free flowing conversation, a lot of back and forth and ideas and suggestions and advice from, 4 people from different various backgrounds selling different products in different industry verticals. It's a huge value add to what they're trying to achieve because they need really quick feedback that they're not spending any money on, and it also helped in a really the hard thing to do in our world is to get that kind of boost of momentum, and so the boost of being able to tap into everyone's network that were linked to 5 on Friday was a huge benefit to a lot of these startups. And they came on and all of a sudden they're getting Francois's network and Patrick's network and my network. And, it boosts. Next thing you know, we had like, I don't know, about 60,000, organic network reach, which isn't too shabby, and they don't have to pay a penny for it. So it kind of benefited them from a sales, strategic marketing standpoint. But it also was great because they really were in a situation where, holy crap, they're trying to start a business in a pandemic,
Yeah. Yeah.
More power to them, man. They're braver than I am.
Yeah, it was, the year of people are reinventing themselves or pivoting. My favorite COVID word is I had to pivot. But we all had to do it. And, there's a lot of people who suffered and struggled and a lot of people who thrived, figured it out. And you were one of them. And I want to talk about that. It's, this is a good segue because, Amy is the quintessential embodiment of building your personal brand on LinkedIn. I talk about this a lot to my clients. I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but building your personal brand on LinkedIn is so important, even if you're not a solopreneur or even if you don't have your own company. So tell us about, how important you think it is and how people can go about starting that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back to why I started it to begin with. I was a lonely sales rep, sitting in an office in Texas, and I was selling a very niche, complicated technology product into a very enterprise level space. Okay. So I'm competing against the IBMs and, the Broadcoms and all of these big companies that had a similar product suite, but just not as granular and, cool and nerdy as the product I was selling.
Mm-hmm.
But I was selling against, IBM, who has thousands of sales reps, in the ears of all of my target customers all across the country. Because at the time, my territory, right now it's Alabama and Mississippi. Then it was North America and South America. So,
that's
one
pretty small
person
territory.
against the world. Yeah. And so I had to figure out a way to get in front of and just get more at bats even with the decision makers within these massive enterprise level companies. And you can't do that through just blasting them with generic email chains and cold calling. I mean, that all makes a difference. It's all a part of the plan. But the key I found was if I could make enough noise and I could build my kind of personal brand up and be a little bit loud and brash and have some fun, building a quirky character of a person,
Mm-hmm.
I might get recognized. One of these executives might somehow end up seeing me, and then they get an email from me and a phone call from me. And that combination of just being able to kind of look at that and say like, oh, I've seen her somewhere, or I know that name, or seeing me online and seeing what company I work for and just putting two and two together. So that's what I really set out to do, was like, let's see if I can try to grow the momentum, start engaging on people's content. I mean, that's really where it started. I just started commenting like crazy on people's content. And I mean, it wasn't like super thought-provoking comments either. Some of them were, some of them were like, this is a really good meme, like, this meme is perfect for this post. And I think because I didn't follow any rules, I wasn't trying to fit some pattern. I wasn't trying to beat the algorithm. I was just being myself and just kind of going with the flow. And I started giving out sales advice. I mean, 17 years, I've been in the sales world. I took a 7-year hiatus to be a mom, and a stay-at-home mom, and and a Navy wife, and but the sales world was what I really knew. That's where I cut my teeth. And so I guess, I don't know, I gave some decent advice. I don't know. It took off. And because I was slowly building this momentum of engagement on LinkedIn, when I started to post things, all these people that I was engaging with on a regular basis on their content, they started showing up and engaging with me. And then that just kind of grew and grew and grew. And all you really need is like 1 or 2 posts to take off on any social media platform. And it will continue to expand out into just this person's network reach and beyond, until you get to the point where it's like, okay, you set a ball in motion and it's like physics, it's going to keep going. Right. And eventually you're going to have to kick it a little bit, but it is very, I don't know, it ain't rocket science, Alan. Okay?
No, it's not. Right. But it's hard work and it's determination and it's intention. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is, you figured it out on your own. I did the same thing, but later than you did it. I started in March after the pandemic, after I crawled up into a ball for about 2 days and realized, holy crap, I have no more speaking engagements. I have no more customer pipeline. What am I going to do? I had 100 contacts on LinkedIn back then. And I'm like, I got to figure this out. And it comes down to determination, consistency, and intention. That's what I always say. And if you do those 3 things, and you're genuine, you have no other, it's going to work. It's just going to work.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I think by default, when you start to engage more on really any social media platform, but specifically if you're looking at business. I mean, LinkedIn is the B2B world. And when you are genuine and authentic and you're taking the initiative to connect truly with people, you are going to build so many network connections with people that can actually help you, or they turn to you for help. And that was a really big moment for me when I started, having people messaging me about, can you find me a job? I was like, I'm not an HR recruiter. Like, I don't know, man. Like, look at your resume, but it was very, it was kind of a very humbling experience for me that all of a sudden I started to see that I could not only expand my network and continue to engage on LinkedIn through my content, but also through relationships with people and developing having those conversations where they're asking for help or they're asking for an open door. And if I can open a door for them, I'm going to open that door for them. My good friend Justin Michael is a prime example of that. This guy is freaking crazy. Okay, he's a brilliant man, but he's he had a massive fan club of people that were like, "Oh my gosh, Justin Michael," and I was like, I had a couple conversations with him, and he's a normal guy,
Right.
very, very smart, but he's just a dude.
He's on LinkedIn. He's a LinkedIn guy.
Right, on LinkedIn. Justin Michael, the machine. But he I think because he was such kind of a celebrity figure, people were afraid to connect with him, or they were like, I really want to talk to this guy. I read his book, or I've seen this post, and I want his advice on something, or I want him to mentor me, or whatever it may be. So there's been a lot of moments like that with random people, where they really did just want a connection with someone that could help elevate their sales career, that could mentor them in a specific area where they felt they were weak, and just generally needed a leg up, And I think that by far, outside of my content, because my content is sometimes not LinkedIn appropriate, it isn't, I can be completely honest with that. Some of it's like me galloping my horse across a freaking pasture,
but you know what, though, that I think that shows your personality. I like when people do that a little bit, at least. And you do it just enough where you don't have to like talk business all the time. When I do some coaching and teach people how to do content, I'm like, you're not preaching all the time. People don't want to hear you constantly saying, this is what you need to do. Just show your personality every now and then. You do that, and I think you do it brilliantly. So
that's one of those intangible things that drives me crazy. I wish that more sales coaches and trainers, and you do a really good job of this, Alan. I mean, even in the group that we did together, I was watching it. Is teaching people how to just let frickin' go, There's so many rules that they've defined about how to do business and how to sell and what to say and what cold call openers to use and all that garbage. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, those things are all important. Having a sales process is important. Hoorah. Okay.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're talking to another person that's not going to play by your rules. They're not going to follow your script. They don't care why you're calling them. And you have to really quickly kind of engage in that emotional intelligence, that psychological understanding of how to quickly connect with this person. And, at that point, it's the intangibles that you really need. It's the ability to kind of warm someone up and win them to your side and your team, go Cowboys. Right. So, by the end of this call, Alan, I'm going to have you converted. But it's stuff like that where in your content, you can show a different side of yourself that is warm and engaging or funny or quirky. There's this one guy that I follow, Tim DeJesus, and, he blew up on LinkedIn because he posted about his divorce.
Oh, really?
It blew up. I think he got like 100,000 some odd views on this post, maybe more at this point.
Wow.
He literally bared his soul and said, look, guys, I went through a divorce and it sucked. And, and I mean, it was insane. Like, and the crazy part was he went through that at the exact time that I was starting to kind of go through what I was going through in my personal life. And I was like, oh my God, that dude is so brave.
Yeah.
He just said that to the whole world.
Yeah.
And my first thought was like, I wonder how many DMs he's getting from women right now.
Yeah.
Like just looking to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is for lovers. But it inspired me. And I was like, well, damn, okay. It's okay to be a little bit more vulnerable. I mean, this guy was, and next thing you know, he's every week he was gaining more and more followers. And we actually had a little bit of a game at one time. I would go on his profile and see how many followers he had, and I would trash talk him. Like he'd be like, "Oh, I'm up by 80." Like he got super creepy. But I think that's the big thing with LinkedIn that people don't understand is that it's okay to show who you are as a person, to be vulnerable. And if you don't want to be vulnerable and you don't want to put your personal business out there, that's fine. That's not everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
I'm a little extra, I guess, in that respect. But you can talk about, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What books are you reading? What TV show had an episode that was really like inspiring to you? I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as you're kind of giving people an open window into you as a person. And when you have conversations with people, don't turn that shit off. Keep that going.
Yeah.
I think the worst advice that I hear on a consistent basis, because it's so heavily saturated and it's so like ingrained in our culture as a sales rep, is that it's all about the customer. No, it's not. Okay. Not those first like 10 minutes or so where you're trying to engage someone. It's not always about them, because you don't even know what they want or need sometimes when you're first talking to them. Right. And sometimes just getting them to crack open a little bit and warm up to you enough as a person that's all it takes sometimes to get them to start talking about their world and their job and the problems and holes that exist. And, and then you can be very honest in those moments and say, well, look, I'm here to try to sell you something, essentially. Yeah. But if I don't have, if there's no need, then okay, fine. We'll part friends, and that's that. No sweat off my back.
Right.
And I think sometimes being an engaging person and having the balls to talk about yourself a little bit, it can't hurt. And right. It certainly hasn't hurt in my career. So do it online too. Why not?
Well, one of my more popular posts, I've had quite a few popular ones, but the ones that usually get more engagement and, are the ones that either I don't plan, I kind of do it off the cuff. Like one day I got this unbelievable treatment at Starbucks and I was so blown away by it. I decided to do a post on it very quickly and it got 10,000 views. And then I did a time lapse with my daughter and I building my desk. And that one was probably still my most popular. And I put music behind it. It was a time lapse of my 12-year-old and I building a desk. And that was personality, had nothing to do with sales. It was just us building a desk. And, I keep getting comments on that even to this day.
Well, because you're it's the foundation that you've established. People know that you know what you're talking about when it comes to sales. Mm-hmm. They could go on your LinkedIn profile and go find your YouTube videos and they know, okay, this guy knows a thing or two. All right. Mm-hmm. You even have like that look, like he looks like he knows what he's talking about. But
well, I have two more of these, and you could talk about my look.
Right. Well, man, sales is going to be a whole different world when we can all start to go out to cocktail hours again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like taking my customer out to drinks. It was so much easier then.
Yeah.
Good Lord. The old salty sales reps that like lived and breathed on happy hours.
Yeah.
I think they're the ones that struggled the most this last year.
Absolutely.
They're just alone.
Or they retired.
Drinking, like depressed in their homes. Like, what do I do, man? But it's taking that foundation of, I know what I'm talking about, and adding that little extra, I don't know, it's like the seasoning,
Yeah,
it's just
I agree.
It's just giving someone something more that they can connect with on a different level. And that makes you interesting. And when you're interesting, people don't forget you. And you'll pop up in their feed. I mean, the algorithms aren't stupid.
Right.
Okay. You should see my Facebook algorithm right now. It is all horses and cowboys. That's it. Horses and cowboys. Because it knows me. It's watching me. LinkedIn is no different. If you scroll through your feed and you pop open someone's post, like yourself building a desk, and the algorithm knows that you engaged in that content longer than anything else. So what's it going to do? It's going to show you more of that content.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Right. Exactly.
And so I think that that's one of the things that I've tried to do is almost like trick the algorithm in a way where I'm just so freaking random that it doesn't know where to put me. And because of that, I gain followers from all these different places.
Yeah.
Some of them are business worlds, some of them are fashion models and, all over the world. And, it's really kind of cool to see. And I know that I'm having some sort of like weird outreach, like something is happening when I start getting really, really just stupid sales emails on LinkedIn where they're like, you're a business owner. I'm like, no, I'm not. I have a nonprofit. Like we make zero revenue. I am not a business owner. I promise you. But I know that they're somehow, seeing me, and I'm popping up now as, connection. Like you might know this person, or I'm starting to kind of pop up on their radar. So, yeah, it's an interesting world.
Well, I also think that the thing that makes you unique is you work for someone else, and we're going to get, this is going to be a good segment into the question I have for tonight from Wesley from Miami Beach. So I think people, and this is just maybe, see if you agree with me on this. People probably tend to maybe, see that? I just said maybe. People tend to maybe follow and like content or people like yourself that are not coaches or not going to sell them anything, know? So like, I always wonder like, okay, I'm a sales coach. So is someone not going to like me because they don't want me to like pitch them to be a sales coach? I always kind of wonder, because there's a difference. There's the people that are kind of the solopreneurs and they're doing their own thing and they do marketing and they do all this that, but then here's you who work for one company and you post really cool content. So you're almost like, oh, she's safe to like, because she's not going to bother me.
Yeah.
LinkedIn has, it's filled with all that sales stuff. So,
but I think that you just hit the nail on the head there. Like, what is a great networking resource for you?
It's LinkedIn.
Me. Like people like
me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We can recommend you. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing with 5 on Friday that we were approached right at the very beginning by numerous sales coaches and methodologies, wanting to sponsor, wanting to brand, 5 on Friday.
No kidding.
And we were like, negative ghostwriter. Like we are going to be methodology neutral. We'll bring on sales coaches from different backgrounds. We've had Sandler people on there. Dale Dupree's been on there. Morgan J. Ingram with John Barrows and all of that. Scott Leese has been on. You're coming on. So the thing that we wanted to make sure we did was we said to anyone that was coming on that was, had some sort of sales coaching product or service. One, you can't pitch your product. None of us do. The only one that is really pitching their product is the presenter, period. But there have been plenty of times where a presenter has been so impressed by the advice they got from the sales coach that was on that they connected afterwards.
Right.
And business comes from that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just, and also not only that, but our network seeing that we trust, like that people trust this person's method and process and who they are, the integrity of that person enough to bring them on to give advice for free. We're not benefiting anything from this. that makes a huge difference because they see you're volunteering your time and you're not trying to get anything from it. And if something happens, great. If nothing happens, at least you helped someone out for an hour, and gave them a leg up when they needed one most.
Yeah.
So I think that networking structure that you can build on LinkedIn and kind of getting other people to be just a foot in the door for you is massively useful.
Or a cheerleader for you too.
That's where I feel like, what's that?
Or a cheerleader for you too. Like, they're going to say, oh yeah, I know someone you should talk to. I mean, how many times do people say, hey, Alan, I think you should talk to this person. I spoke to them yesterday. They're awesome. You guys should talk.
Yeah.
It happens once a day.
Yeah. You've got cheerleaders, though. I did this one post. I think it was the post where I was like, holy hell, I am so busy. My LinkedIn inbox is obliterated. I'm hiring a virtual assistant, which, by the way, I'm probably hiring my daughter. She's negotiated $10 an hour to be my virtual assistant. Ooh. And I think I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, good Lord. She's going to see some stuff, though. And I'm like, is she ready for that? Anyways, her grammar will probably be a lot better than a lot of the messages I get. Anyhow, someone posted, like, you commented on that post and you were like, hey, don't worry about it. Cause you were one of the people in my inbox that I was like, oh my God, I made a promise and I just failed miserably. And someone commented, and it was a lady, and she said, oh my gosh, you got the attention of Alan Langer. And I was like, oh man, he's big time now. Alan, look at you, man, with your fan club. And I thought it was really interesting and just, I don't know, it was really cool because you get to see, that you're resonating with people enough that they're like, this guy is something else,
Well, it is funny because
that's what it takes to be successful.
Yeah. And you and I, you're just you and I'm just me. But, when we're out there and we're putting ourselves out there like that, the perception is, oh, wow, I'm talking to Amy Quick today. Like, she's like big time on LinkedIn and it just happens. And it's really cool. And like you said, it's kind of humbling. But I just, for me, I've always been a total social, person. I went out to dinner 3 or 4 times a week, and I just love sitting at a bar and talking to people. And then COVID happened, so I just turned that into doing it here. And I've mentioned, the people who listen to this podcast know I've mentioned this many times, with my networking group on Fridays has been literally the best thing I did all year. Is put those people together, and that has branched out and rippled to such wide reaches. It really is an amazing thing. So what you said is the most important thing we can say on this whole podcast is build your network and become part of a tight-knit network, and it will do nothing but help you.
Yeah. And micro communities are a big part of that. You can have, a couple different groups that you're kind of like, they're like your micro community. They're like buddies that you lean on. Yep. That's been a big thing. I mean, Francois and Patrick Downs, Stephen Chase and Tucker Hood, Aaron Bell, Tabitha Kavanaugh. I mean, all these people that helped us with 5 on Friday, we kind of dubbed them the Friends of 5 on, because that's really what they were. They were like, they're helping us. And I mean, if we needed something, they were there. If we needed someone to come on, they were there. And we really built some micro community around that. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I started writing a book about networking and stuff like that is to just talk about micro communities and really just how beneficial they can be. And I actually asked all their permission, and they did put it in writing, Alan.
Oh, they did.
That I could take screenshots of some of these chats that we were in together that just went off the freaking rails. It was like, how did we get here? But it was so funny. And sometimes we would just be having an absolute shit day. And then next thing you know, you're laughing, and like we would freeze chats. Like they would get frozen on LinkedIn because there'd be so many like GIFs and memes and stuff that would freeze the chat. And we would be joking about like, anyways, long story short, I think that's for for mental health and just emotional health in the last year. That's been a big, big deal for a lot of people, is finding that support group online when we're all stuck being winos in our houses alone, you know?
Yeah, the Friday group, everybody, we all get on. It's like, I joke, I've said this joke before, I apologize if people have heard it, but it's like, when we can finally, like you said, finally meet again face to face, I want to have everyone from this group, we come together somewhere, and it's going to be like we're survivors of a plane crash finally meeting for the first time, And that's what it's going to be like, because none of us, I mean, I know a few of them personally, but none of us have never met in person. This is, and we, and most of us are very good friends now, but virtually. It's crazy.
It's, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
We've talked about doing the same thing. And Francois, he's gonna laugh. He won't kill me because this is public knowledge, but he likes to dress up in costumes and like sing karaoke and stuff. Like, he's a real character, and he's Canadian too. So he's got that going for him. But like, we were talking about when we actually meet, I'm like, dude, like, you've got to show up in full costume. Like, there's got to be like you can't just show up as Francois. Like, you're going to have to show up with like your blonde wig and like dressed as some crazy character. And, it's just funny, like, how you can connect with people on this platform. I mean, I'm talking virtually. I'm always really curious to see how that translates in person. Yeah. Because, I think that's something that we're all missing, and it'll happen, Yeah,
it'll happen. I want to actually take like 2 weeks and take a LinkedIn trip and just, pick 10 or 12 of my closest, like LinkedIn connections, and just go travel and meet everybody.
Come to Texas.
I'll come to Texas.
I've got Cowboys a few Texas game.
Yes, we'll definitely go to a Cowboys game. If they're playing the Giants, even better.
I'll just be clapping like doing the Garrett clap.
All right. Well, this is awesome. And I love how, like, we didn't talk about sales directly, but we did, because we talked about all this connection and the networking and how to talk to a person, and it's all connected. And that's why you're so good at what you do. But I want to get to this question because it really has to do with personal branding on LinkedIn. And it's a really cool question from Wesley. So Wesley's getting a free signed copy of my book for sending this in. He is from Miami Beach, and here is his question. So he writes, my employer thinks spending time on LinkedIn is a total waste of time. He doesn't want us reps doing it at all. How can I convince him it's in the company's best interest? Great question, Wesley. And Amy, how would you answer that?
Okay. Well, first off, everything you need to convince your boss is available at your fingertips on LinkedIn. You don't even need like the premium version of LinkedIn to be able to like pull basic analytics to show your boss what's happening. Okay. So you can kind of gauge your progress, if you will. Like, for instance, you can look at a post and see who's viewing your post. Mm-hmm. And when I first started doing this, it was like the most random, absurd, viewers, like no rhyme or reason. But over time, I started noticing, all of these customers of mine are viewing the posts, and you can see how many people at that particular organization is viewing your content. So as you're connecting more and making more connections with your actual customers as well, because you don't just want to be sending out random connection requests to just anyone. Like, right. Some of it is kind of random, and some of it needs to be like, okay, this is my customer. These are my decision makers. And occasionally those people are going to accept your connection requests. They're going to start to become an audience for your content. So you can really quickly show your boss in a screenshot that at company X, 5 people viewed this particular post. And that's just one post. Mm-hmm. So if you multiply that by consistent engagement, you can see that your target customers are going to be consuming your content. At least 1 or 2 people there will be. So that's one thing. Okay. The second thing is, when I interviewed for Fortinet, my current manager, kind of came out of nowhere and questioned me on my LinkedIn usage and particularly my usage of emojis. Okay. And he said, I don't know that the emoji usage will really translate in the cybersecurity world. I mean, these people are really closed off, kind of, fuddy-duddies. Like they're really,
Wow.
I don't know how well that's going to translate. And I was like, well, Mr. Manager, I completely respect that. And let me just tell you why I started using more emojis in my content. And I kind of walked him through the story of, how I was a lonely rep and had to like post a bunch of content to like grow my personal brand and get in front of more customers, et cetera, et cetera. And how by the end of it, I landed a Fortune 10 company. Okay. One of the largest US healthcare company in the country. All right.
Wow.
I got in front of them because of what I was doing on LinkedIn, and a combination of that and like my email campaigns. I used a Dilbert's comic strip and it just connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it helped kind of humanize me to my decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
And a month later, I was at an on-site demo with the entire organization. I mean, everyone that needed to be in that room was in that room. So it was a very, very tangible outcome from my emoji usage on LinkedIn. And so in my interview, I just explained this probably far more eloquently than I just did. But my manager was like, okay. But at the end of it, I said, but listen, Mr. Manager, if you feel like me using emojis would be, adversary, and it's not going to help me with our customer base, and you were to ask me to tone it down, I'm a team player and I would go ahead and tone it down. I mean, I'm not going to like, right. I'm going to do what you feel is best.
Right.
And be a team player. And he was like, no. Like if it's working for you, like it's fine.
I just wanted to show you that I made an emoji,
Right. And it's not everyone's cup of tea, Alan. Like I get that.
Right.
But that was my interview to get the job. So this guy had seen.
Oh, that was your interview. I thought this was after you were hired. Oh, wow.
No, this was like, I was like, oh shit, I'm not getting this job. I got the job. And the funny thing was I emailed my manager on LinkedIn to thank him. And I didn't put any emojis in the email except for at the very end, I put one smiley face emoji. And I was like, here's the emoji usage. And I hit quota this quarter and everything. And I closed a couple really big deals. And my boss is now messaging me with emojis. So it's adorable. But I did get a call a month in to my job at Fortinet. And my boss's boss, Phil, kind of said, Amy, you're on LinkedIn a lot. And I was like, yes, sir, I am. And I was still in training. So I didn't have a territory, didn't have like customers or anything at that point. So I was kind of at that transitory period where I was twiddling my thumbs a little bit, waiting for my job. But I was engaging on LinkedIn a lot because I really I was watching some training videos and like, how many times can I look at the product matrix on this Excel document? You know what I mean? So, but he did, he called me up and he said, you're on LinkedIn a lot. Like you're obviously growing and you're very visible there. And his bosses were calling him asking, who is this new sales rep that y'all hired, this Amy Quick girl? Who is she? And what is she doing on LinkedIn? They were like, huh? And I think they were a little like concerned. And so he was like, I need to make sure that you're committed to Fortinet. Like we hired you, and I was like, oh, this is real fear. It's a genuine concern. His main concern was that he didn't want me to jump ship and run for a better opportunity because if I'm visible enough and outspoken enough about, oh, I'm a baller rock star, or some crap like that, I very easily could get pillaged, and go for a better offer. Okay, that's a concern. And so that was one thing. And the second thing I thought of was, okay, well, they want to make sure that I'm invested. They've hired me to work for Fortinet. I am working for that organization to grow their revenue. Okay, and my success by default. So if I'm kind of getting in the way of that with my personal brand development, then I'm not benefiting the company and I'm hurting myself in the process.
Right.
So there really was this fine line that I had to walk where I was like, okay. And so I made a pact with myself that I told Phil this. I'm like, listen, when I need to be actively selling, I'm going to be actively selling. I'm not going to be on LinkedIn engaging in content all day long, because that's not the job that I was hired to do. I was hired to run a territory. Okay. Now, if you're a prospector and you're doing a ton of cold outbound and your whole job is just to prospect net new accounts, LinkedIn is a great, engaging on LinkedIn for several hours a day could be a very, very profitable venture for you. But for other reps like myself, it isn't, because my customers are either already in my CRM, or they're active customers and I'm trying to upsell, or I'm, trying to like build on renewals or build on relationships. And then I'm also trying to get net new. I had to look at my whole book of business and understand how much time should I be devoting to revenue generating
activities,
processes
and
activities. But at the same time, Phil told me, listen, we hired you because of your visibility on LinkedIn. That's one of the reasons we chose you. And I was like, so it wasn't like don't use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the devil.
Right.
It was more like, be wise with how you're using it. And I think that is something that we probably should be telling people more in the sales world, to be honest, because, you like in your situation, you're selling, sales coaching and consulting and things of that nature. Your whole industry, all of your target customers, most of the time are on LinkedIn.
They're on LinkedIn, right?
And maybe they're not, I'm sure there's going to be stragglers that don't use LinkedIn. So that makes sense for you. But then for other sales reps, it doesn't. You do have to balance your time.
Right.
So I would say to that rep, the proof is in the pudding. Be smart about how you engage, when you engage. If you're supposed to be cold calling, freaking cold call. Don't be posted on LinkedIn. There's a timestamp. Your boss can see that when you were supposed to be making like 30 calls, you were like tweeting or posting on LinkedIn, and you're not fulfilling your obligation to that company at that point in time. So that's one thing. And second, if they are scared about personal brand development, they're stupid. And hands down.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Like, your people are out there selling your product, but the people are selling the product. The product is not selling the product.
The people are.
So if your people grow and they're more visible and engaging and confident, and here, hands down, if I send an email to a customer or a partner and we're somehow connected on LinkedIn, and most of the time we are these days, if I don't get it, like I'd say my response rate on average is probably around 80% It's crazy high. And that's because I built my brand up so much that people see me as kind of a quasi celebrity in some ways. Like, oh, this girl's something, I better call her back.
Yep.
And it helps. And so I think that employers need to start wrapping their heads around the fact that, there's a little risk, that this person could be perceived as being, talented enough that they could be poached.
Right.
And that's where there's some insecurity there. And then there's also the perception of like, okay, well, we don't want them going out and dropping F-bombs all over social media because that, hurts the brand. So you do have to be smart about what you're doing and how you engage, but like definitely do focus on personal brand. It won't hurt, if you do it right and responsibly is what I would say.
And I would add to that, because you touched on it already, is, you have Sales Navigator, which is a great tool if you know how to use it. And for me, I think if you're smart, LinkedIn almost eliminates cold calling, because if you're engaging with your target customers and they've seen your name, now you call them or send them an email, just like you said, oh, I know this person. It's no longer a cold call. So I'd rather have that. I'd rather have my reps doing warm calls and warm contacts than just making their 50 calls a day where they're going to get a 1.5% success rate, which is it's just a stupid waste of time, in my opinion. So tell your boss, Wesley, to like, LinkedIn is going to help turn these cold calls into warm calls. And it's going to really start to have you identify not only your client avatar, but you're going to connect with them in a way that they're actually going to converse with you, as opposed to dumping your email in the trash can or not picking up the phone call. Yeah. So that's what I would say, Wesley, is that's a way to show your boss. But Amy is 100% right. If they're really against it, then they're not very smart. They're just nervous. And, they're what I've seen with companies is, well, we can't let our employees go on LinkedIn because they're wasting time. They're not selling. And that's what they're afraid of. And they're just missing the point. Because if you have your smart reps, they're using LinkedIn to their advantage and to your company's advantage.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it all comes down to sales process. There should be time built in to a sales process to enable the reps to engage in personal brand development, social media engagement, period. End of story. I think it's 100%. In this day and age, you can't not use social media to its full advantage.
Yeah.
So
totally right. Well, guess what? We're almost at 50 minutes. It's been time is flying by. My Manhattan is about halfway done. So we are going to say goodbye to Amy Quick. I can't thank her enough. She first of all, congratulations on your rookie of the quarter. I think was that the
rookie of the year, but I haven't won it yet. I'm a finalist. But I've only been with the company for 2 quarters. So
that's pretty impressive.
I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm like, all right, okay. I'm not, squandering away my life. So
all right. Well, if people want to say hi to Amy Quick on LinkedIn, do they just look you up, or is there a way if they need cybersecurity information, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I haven't done any SEO optimization, I swear it. But if you Google Amy Quick, I'm the first option that pops up.
Wow.
And LinkedIn, I think if you type in Amy, I'm like one of the first options, and Amy Q, I think I'm like the first option. So Just find me on there. Just hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah. And my phone number is not on there, so I don't get calls at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I'm easy to find. I'll respond.
Well, Amy, thanks very, very much for being on the show. I really had a good time with you. Congratulations on your award and continued success. I'm looking forward to hopefully being on 5 on Friday at some point. Just let me know what Friday and I will be there. And everyone else that's been here joining us for episode 40, thank you very much for Amy, for myself. Thank you for joining Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Remember, the website is marketingandsalespodcast.com. Amy, we're going to say goodnight. Thank you again. And everyone out there, thank you. We'll see you next time.